method.
Yeah, chord length. Okay, here we
If
go.
you have ever said that the 8 inches per mile squared approximation is only accurate over short distances, if you continue to say that after watching my previous video, this video is for you. We're talking about conversations about whether the Earth is flat, whether the Earth is a globe.
Yep.
We're talking about whether objects should be hidden by the curvature. Are we talking about across Lake Michigan, across Lake Pontchartrain? Are we talking about the distance from Malibu out to San Jacinto? These are the distances that we are talking about. In the previous video, I showed that this approximation is accurate out past 1,000 miles, which is well beyond anything
It depends on your definition of accurate, but
that
sure.
is going to come
Under 1,000, I'll agree with. After 1,000, no.
up in discussions of flat Earth observations.
Go ahead, Byron.
No, I've said that, so tune me in. I go, oh man, I better listen to this because I've said that exact same
chart
thing.
That I showed in the previous video, and I take the distance out to 3,500 miles, and I show at that distance an error of 6.7%.
That's a big error.
Considerable.
It is.
6% of 3,000 miles is what? 180 miles. That's a lot of miles.
I think the problem is when you do like that is they're taking into account only the curvature from the ground.
And you can even see like it is pretty accurate, right? So off by 0.1, off by 0.3, 0.5, 0.7, but then you see it's like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Like you can see the exponential happening in the numbers there.
Right, but I mean, because it's meters. Oh, I'm using kilometers. Sorry. Even if it's miles, it would be miles squared.
That's not exactly a large error. If you
Okay, so this is the part Gene is
watched the
confused
previous
about.
video, you know that I showed 4 different ways
Yes.
of calculating the drop with distance, depending on what you mean by distance. Let's take a closer look at this graph. The red line is the horizontal length method. My preferred method was the arc length, which is shown here.
Which is wrong. Peak to peak is the actual measurement, which is the bottom yellow line, but let's ignore that.
In blue, comparing that with the 8 inches
I like
per
arc
mile
length
squared
because that's
curve.
distance over the surface.
Yeah, but you're like again going back to the missing triangle of GeanTechman here.
Yeah, exactly.
Arc length is calculating big H. The only thing that calculates little h is peak to peak, which is this bottom yellow line. Notice how it's linear and not exponential. That's a big difference.
Just above is remarkably close. The 8 inches per mile orange line lies between the extremes.
Yep.
Where is chord length on this graph? It's the green line, and you cannot see it. The orange line and the green line line up so perfect that you can't even see it. So if you're not happy that 1,000 miles is still a short distance in your book, take a look here. I've taken it all the way out to 7,900 miles. It's off by 0.03%.
So what he's doing here, and this is what Gene does not understand, he is applying 8 inches per mile squared to the chord length. He's not applying it to the arc length. He's applying it to the chord length.
He's using the parabola. That's what he's doing.
Yeah.
Because it's a parabola square.
Right. So the problem is this distance of 7,900 as a chord length is the diameter of Earth. When you have 7,900 as an arc length, that's not. Right? So from here straight through the Earth to the other side is 7,900 miles. But if you're measuring distance this way, 7,900 miles only gets you to about here, only about a third, maybe a little more than a third of the way around. No, a little less than a third of the way around. So he's calculating 8 inches per mile squared based off of the chord length here. But when we say something's 7,900 miles away, we're not saying the chord length away. We're saying the arc length away. So the reason why it works for the chord length is because chord length is a straight line. So you do have a 90-degree triangle. Pythagoras works. You could use 8 inches per mile squared on the chord length. That works. But the distance from here to here as an arc length is 1,200 or 12,400 whatever miles, which is a lot more than 7,900, and it's going to be a lot more inaccurate. So the reason chord length works at a short distance is because the chord length and the arc length are within 1% of each other up until 1,000 miles. After that, you saw on his graph that they diverge rapidly. So when you're applying this formula, when you apply this formula, the 8 inches per mile squared, to the chord length, it's exact. The reason it's off by 0.03 is because 8 inches is not the exact number. The exact number is 8.0025 or something. There's a fraction that they just chop off. So when you apply 8 inches per mile squared to the chord length, you get it exactly. And the reason it works as an approximation is because in the beginning, when you're only within, 2, 3, 10 degrees, the chord length and the arc length are less than 1% different. But by the time you get down to here, your arc length needs to be, 6,500 miles? But the chord length from here to here is only like 4,000 miles. So now you have a huge difference between chord length and arc length. And that's why the equation doesn't work anymore. So these numbers on the screen right now are what happened when you apply 8 inches to the chord length. And they match because the chord length is a straight line. When you are applying it to the arc length, you don't have a straight line, which means you do not have a right triangle, which means the parabola doesn't work.
The reason is because the number 8 we use in 8 inches is in fact rounded off a little bit. Otherwise, that is the exact correct equation throughout the curve all the way out to the full diameter of the Earth. Past that point, chord length becomes meaningless as you just go back up the other side. If, like this commenter, you are out there somewhere saying the 8 inches per mile squared is an approximation that's only good over short distances, I'm calling on you right now. Go out there and make the correction.
I just did.
That's relatively short.
Saying that formula is not right. That formula is a parabola. The formula is a parabola, but that doesn't mean the formula is wrong. If you use chord length for your...
If you use chord length. Did you hear his words? If you use chord length. And when you are talking about a distance along the surface of the Earth, that is an arc length, not a chord length.
Your distance, the formula for drop rate is a parabola.
Let's listen to that whole sentence, because I know Gene has trouble keeping whole sentences. Whole sentence.
Your distance, the formula for drop rate is a parabola. That formula is a parabola. The formula is a parabola, but that doesn't mean the formula is wrong.
Here we go. The whole sentence. Everyone listen.
If you use chord length for your distance, the formula for drop rate is a parabola. Here's the derivation right here.
And I went over the derivation in a previous video. So
finally, I have seen this comment before that the 8 inches per mile squared comes from the small angle approximation.
Yep, Taylor series.
You could say that, but as Truth Nerds just pointed out, there's a derivation of it where it comes from that being the exact form. If you're going to use the arc length method, then the small angle approximation will be your friend there. Maybe Science made a video where he shows this.
Okay, so there you go. Sorry, Gene. Wrong again.